The world can change in a single moment. For me, that moment came with a crumpled piece of paper leaning against the doorframe of my daughter's apartment. 6 words that hit me like a freight train. Your daughter is in critical condition. I'm Patricia Newman, a retired investigative journalist, 62 years old, with a lifetime of chasing stories behind me. I just returned to Portland, Oregon from a 2-week trip to Morocco, my first real vacation in years. A suitcase still smelled of desert spices and leather markets, and in it, tucked carefully among my clothes, was a vintage camera I'd found in a Marrakesh souk. It was for Leila, my daughter, a 30-year-old freelance photographer with a heart full of dreams and a lens that captured the world's quiet beauty. I'd pictured her face lighting up when I handed it to her, her hazel eyes sparkling as she turned the old dials, already imagining the stories she'd tell through its viewfinder. But when I stepped into her apartment, the air felt wrong. Too still, too silent. No coffee brewing, no music drifting from her studio corner, no Lila rushing to hug me. Just that letter from Legacy Emmanuel Medical Center, its edges curling as if it had been waiting there for days. My hands trembled. As I tore it open, Leila Newman admitted 6 days ago. Intensive care unit. My knees buckled. 6 days. My only child had been fighting for her life. I'd been wandering through Moroccan bazaars, oblivious, sipping mint tea under a foreign sun. I don't remember the drive to the hospital. The city blurred past Portland's gray skies. The wet streets, the hum of traffic, all of it meaningless. At the hospital reception, a young woman with tired eyes looked up from her computer. "Mrs. Newman," she said, her voice professional but soft, like she'd delivered bad news too many times. "Your daughter's on the 4th floor. ICU. She was in a car accident. It's serious. Serious." The word echoed in my head, hollow and inadequate. "Where's her husband?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "Derek Sullivan." "He should be here. Why didn't he call me?" The receptionist hesitated, her fingers pausing on the keyboard. "Mr. Sullivan was here briefly when she was admitted. He signed some paperwork, but we haven't seen him since." My heart sank, a cold weight settling in my chest. Derek? The charming financial consultant Leila had married just 10 months ago. The man who'd promised to love her through anything gone. I gripped the counter, my knuckles whitening. 6 days, I whispered. "She's been here 6 days, and no one told me." "We tried to reach family," the receptionist said, her eyes apologetic. "We had your daughter's emergency contact as her husband, but his phone's been off." The elevator to the 4th floor felt like a descent into another world. Each ding of the floor's passing stretched time, my mind racing with questions. That grew sharper, more desperate. Why hadn't Derek called? I'd left my international number with both of them before I left for Morocco. Was he hurt too? Or something else? Something I didn't want to name yet, though a journalist's instinct nagging. Unshakable feeling was already stirring in my gut. The ICU doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a nurse's station, where a woman in her 50s looked up. Her badge read Karen. "I'm Patricia Newman," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, though inside I was unraveling. "My daughter, Leila Newman, is here. I just found out." Karen's eyes softened. With recognition, but there was something else there, a flicker of concern that sent ice through my veins. "Mrs. Newman, we've been trying to reach someone all week. Your daughter's condition is critical. She's been through a lot. Where's Derek?" I demanded, my voice rising despite myself. "Her husband should be here. He should have called me the second this happened." Karen glanced at a colleague before meeting my gaze again. "Mr. Sullivan was here for a few hours after the accident. He signed the initial forms, but he hasn't been back. We've called him multiple times about medical decisions." No response. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. Derek hadn't just failed to call me. He'd left Leila here, alone, in a sterile room of machines and tubes. "What happened to her?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Karen's expression turned gentle, preparing me. I'll take you to her, but I need to warn you. She has extensive injuries. She's on a ventilator and she's not conscious. Dr. Nguyen, her attending physician, will explain more during rounds. I nodded, my throat tight. My journalist's composure the armor I'd worn through decades of tough stories cracking under the weight of being a mother. Karen led me down a fluorescent-lit corridor, the beeping of monitors and the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes filling the silence. Nothing could have prepared me for what waited in room 307, Leela. My vibrant, creative Leela lay there like a stranger. Tubes snaked from her mouth, her arms hidden under a thin hospital blanket. Her face, the one I'd memorized from her first cries 30 years ago, was swollen, bruised, almost unrecognizable. A surgical bandage wrapped the left side of her head, evidence of emergency surgery. Her right shoulder was stabilized in a brace, her chest rising and falling only because of the machine breathing for her. The steady beep of the heart monitor and the rhythmic whoosh of the ventilator were the only signs she was still here. Lila. I choked out, my voice breaking as I took her hand. It was cool to still nothing like the warm, animated grip of the daughter who'd hugged me goodbye before my trip, promising to send me photos of her latest project. I'm here, sweetheart. Mom's here now. Karen checked the monitors. With practiced calm, she's been stable for the last 2 days, which is encouraging. The neurosurgery team reduced the pressure in her brain, but it's still a long road. What happened? I asked, my eyes locked on Lila's face, searching for any flicker of response, any sign she knew I was there. Karen's voice was steady but heavy. According to the police, her husband was driving. The car was going about 80 miles an hour in a 35 zone. It hit a guardrail. Your daughter wasn't wearing a seatbelt. She was partially thrown from the vehicle. My knees nearly gave out. Karen guided me to a chair beside the bed, her hand steady on my shoulder, and Derek. I asked, a strange calm settling over me, the kind that comes before a storm. Minor cuts and bruises. He was treated in the ER and released the same night. Released, the word hung between us, sharp and damning. Derek had walked away with scratches while my daughter lay broken, fighting for every breath. I need the police report, I said, my voice low, the old journalist in me waking up. And all her medical records. Kira nodded. I'll have them ready for you. Mrs. Newman, it's good you're here. She needs someone fighting for her. After Karen left, I leaned close to Lila, careful not to disturb the web of tubes and wires keeping her alive. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart, I whispered. I'm going to find out what happened. Promise you, I'll get answers. The heart monitor beeped steadily as I sat there, my body exhausted from travel, my mind racing with questions. Where was Derek? Why had he abandoned his wife? What could possibly be more important than being by her side? I pulled out my phone, my fingers hovering over his contact. It's a simple text, I decided. No accusations, not yet. Just a mother reaching out in a crisis. Derek. I'm at Legacy Emmanuel with Lila. Please call me immediately. I sent it. Then turned back to my daughter, gently brushing a strand of hair from her forehead, avoiding the bruises. I'll find him. Lila, I whispered. And I'll find out why he left you here alone. The hospital air felt heavy, antiseptic burning my lungs. My Moroccan vacation was a distant memory now, replaced by a single, unshakable mission: uncover the truth about what happened to my daughter. And why the man who vowed to love her forever was nowhere to be found. Sitting by Leela's bedside, I held her hand, the coldness of her skin a stark contrast to the warmth I remembered from her hugs. The ICU was a world of its own, sterile, quiet except for the relentless beeping of monitors and the rhythmic whoosh of the ventilator keeping my daughter alive. Each sound felt like a countdown, a reminder that time was slipping through my deado. I like through this, and we all know I've been exploring through my deado. And we all know I've been exploring that path. While I'm stay-monished with Corey sized, while we like extied eyes at my lapis. with stayed aggressic. It's stavisic. I call with skiddles condot. Why, we see with see and we with sigu. I can I with see deli at Katie so with core you to see us stout with sick ecolic with kawishin to we to get cuck you decided with psych I to you with you to sick you guy I to you to you cry I get I quit sifit kawalak to you to do you I got to got that with I get with the third would I to get go I would with Fingers, 6 days. My Lila had been here fighting alone for 6 days, and I hadn't known. The guilt was a weight in my chest, heavy and unyielding, but it was the absence of Derek, her husband. That twisted something sharp and unfamiliar. Inside me, I'd always prided myself on my instincts as a journalist. Decades of digging into stories, peeling back layers of lies to find the truth, had taught me to trust that quiet voice in my gut. And right now, that voice was screaming. Something was wrong, very wrong. Derek Sullivan, the man who'd charmed. Leela, with his polished smile and promises of a stable future, had walked away from her hospital bed. He hadn't called me, hadn't answered the hospital's calls. Why? Karen, the head nurse, returned with a cup of coffee and a clipboard. Her presence was steady, grounding, the kind of calm you lean into during a storm. Dr. Nguyen will be here soon for rounds, she said, her voice soft but clear. He'll go over Lila's condition in detail, but I can give you the basics now, if you're ready. I nodded, squeezing Leela's hand gently, as if she could feel it through the haze of her coma. Tell me everything. Karen's eyes met mine, and I saw the weight of what she was about to say. Leela sustained a traumatic brain injury, a fractured right shoulder and a punctured lung from the accident. The neurosurgery team performed a craniotomy to reduce the pressure in her brain, and she's been stable since yesterday. The ventilator is helping her breathe, and we're monitoring her closely for any changes. Each word landed like a stone. My daughter, who'd spent her life chasing light through a camera lens, was now tethered to machines, her body broken, in ways I couldn't comprehend. How did this happen? I asked, my voice steady but laced with something raw. The police report, what does it say? Karen hesitated, choosing her words carefully. According to the report, Mr. Sullivan was driving. The car was traveling at approximately 80 miles an hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. It lost control and hit a guardrail on the I-5. Lila wasn't wearing a seatbelt. She was, partially ejected through the windshield. The room spun. I gripped the arm of the chair, forcing myself to breathe. 80 miles an hour, no seatbelt. My mind painted a picture I didn't want to see Leela. Helpless, thrown forward as the car crumpled. And Derek? I asked, my voice low, almost a growl. Minor lacerations and bruising, Karen said, her tone neutral but her eyes betraying a flicker of judgment. He was treated in the emergency room and released within hours. Released. The word echoed, sharp and bitter. Derek had walked out of this hospital, scratched but whole, while Lila lay here, shattered. I forced myself to focus, to push past the rage threatening to consume me. Was he impaired? I asked, the journalist in me taking over, needing facts to anchor the chaos. Karen's lips tightened. The police report noted a blood alcohol level of 0.09 above the legal limit. There's also a mention of possible distraction. His phone was found open to a text conversation at the scene. Drunk, speeding, texting. The pieces clicked together, each one fueling the fire in my chest. Derek hadn't just been careless. He'd been reckless, endangering Lila's life. And then he'd left her here alone, without a word. My mind flashed to the way he'd always carried himself, confident. Charming, the kind of man who could talk his way out of anything. Lila had fallen for it. I'd wanted to believe in him too, for her sake. But now that charm felt like a mask, hiding something darker. Why didn't he call me? I said, more to myself than to Karen. I gave them both my international number before I left for Morocco. He knew how to reach me. Karen's expression softened, but she didn't have an answer. We've been calling him about medical decisions, surgery consents, treatment plans. His phone's been off or going straight to voicemail. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with questions I wasn't ready to voice. Had something happened to Derek too? Was he in trouble? Or was he running from something? My instincts leaned toward the latter, and I hated how certain I felt about it. I need to see that police report. I said, my voice firm now. The old investigative journalist waking up. And any records you have on Lila's condition? Every detail. Karen nodded, her eyes meeting mine with a quiet respect. I'll get them for you. Dr. Nguyen will be here in about an hour to discuss her prognosis. In the meantime, talk to her. We encourage families to speak to patients, even in a coma. Sometimes they can hear you. She left me alone with Lila. The monitors beeping steadily, the ventilators whoosh a constant rhythm. I leaned closer, my thumb brushing over her knuckles. Lila, sweetheart, I whispered, my voice cracking. I don't know what happened, but I'm here now. I'm going to figure this out. I promise. My phone sat heavy in my pocket. I'd sent Derek that text time at Legacy Emmanuel with Lila. Please call me immediately. No response. Not yet. But I wasn't going to wait forever. I pulled out my notebook, a habit from my reporting days, and started jotting down what I knew. Car accident, 80 miles an hour. Blood alcohol level 0.09. Possible texting. Derek gone. Each fact was a thread, and I'd spent my career pulling threads until the truth unraveled. I looked at Lila's face. The bruises stark against her pale skin, the bandage covering the surgery scar. She looked so fragile, but I knew better. Lila was a fighter, always had been. She'd once spent 3 days camping in the rain to capture a single shot of a waterfall at dawn. If she was fighting now, I'd fight too for her. With her, Derek, I murmured, my voice barely audible over the machines. Where are you? And what are you hiding? The hospital room felt like a battlefield, quiet but charged with the weight of what was coming. I didn't know it then, but I was about to uncover a betrayal deeper than I could have imagined. Derek Sullivan, with his perfect smile and tailored suits, had left a trail, and I was going to follow it, no matter where it led. The hospital room was a cocoon of beeps and hums, Lila's ventilator marking time like a metronome. I sat by her bed, her hands still in mine, but my mind was racing, piecing together fragments of a story I didn't yet understand. Derek's absence wasn't just a mystery, it was a betrayal. And every instinct I'd honed as an investigative journalist told me there was more to it. The man who'd charmed Lila with his easy smile and promises of a secure future had walked away from her, leaving her broken in this sterile room. Why? What was he hiding? I pulled out my laptop, the weight of my old reporting days settling over me like a familiar coat. If Derek wasn't going to answer my texts, I'd find him myself. I started with the basics, their joint bank account. Lila had added Derek to it after their wedding, a safety net for emergencies, she'd said. I'd raised an eyebrow at the time, my journalist's gut had never fully trusted Derek's polished exterior, but I'd kept quiet for her sake. Now I wished I'd spoken up, logging into the account using Lila's credentials she'd shared them with me years ago for emergencies. I scanned the recent transactions. My breath caught. In the 6 days since the accident, there were withdrawals totaling over $12,000. Hotel charges in Los Angeles, a city Lila had no reason to be in. Restaurant bills $800 at a place called the Ivy. A $2,000 cash advance from an ATM on Sunset Boulevard. And then the kicker. A $5,000 transferred to an account I didn't recognize, labeled only as DS Consulting. My hands trembled, not with fear now, but with rage. While my daughter lay fighting for her life, Derek was living it up in LA, spending her money like it was his own. I opened Instagram, my fingers moving faster now, The old investigative fire burning bright. Derek wasn't much for social media. He always said he preferred living in the moment. But I knew his friends weren't so discreet. I searched his name and found a recent post from someone tagged as Ethan Carter, a name I vaguely recalled from Lila's wedding. The photos stopped my heart. There was Derek, tanned and grinning, standing in a flashy nightclub. A champagne flute in one hand, his arm draped around a woman who definitely wasn't Lila. The caption read, "Vegas vibes got nothing on. LA nights? Living large with my boy. Derek, hashtag no limits the time stamp. Yesterday." 5 days after Lila's accident, while I was still reeling from the sight of her in the ICU. Derek was partying, untouched, unbothered. I zoomed in on the photo, studying every detail with the precision I'd used to unravel corporate scandals in my reporting days. The woman's face was unfamiliar, her smile wide and carefree. Derek's suit was pristine, no sign of the accident except a small bandage above his eyebrow. The background showed a glittering LA skyline, the kind of view you get from a rooftop. Bar that charges $50 for a cocktail. My stomach churned. This wasn't just neglect. This was something deliberate, something cold. I needed help. I dialed Michael Torres, a detective I'd worked with years ago on a story about financial fraud in Portland. Michael was sharp. No nonsense. The kind of cop who could smell a lie from a mile away. "Patricia," he answered, his voice warm but cautious. "It's been a while. You okay?" "No," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "My daughter's in the ICU car accident. Her husband, Derek Sullivan, was driving. He's gone, Michael. Vanished after the crash. And I just found out he's in LA spending her money like it's a vacation." There was a pause, then the sound of Michael grabbing a pen. "Tell me everything." I laid it out: the accident, Derek's absence, the bank transactions, the Instagram post. Michael listened, interrupting only to clarify details. "Sounds like you're already halfway to cracking this," he said, a hint of admiration in his tone. "Those transactions, any chance you can send me the account numbers? I'll run them through our system, see if anything pops." "Done," I said, already forwarding screenshots from the banking app. "Michael, there's something else. That $5,000 transfer to DS Consulting, it doesn't feel right. Leela's a photographer, not a consultant. And Derek's supposed to be a financial advisor. But it's off." "Got it," Michael said. "I'll look into it. In the meantime, you need to protect Lila's assets. Can you freeze the accounts?" I hadn't thought that far, but the idea snapped into place like a puzzle piece. "King." "Try," I said. "Lila gave me access for emergencies." "This qualifies." "Good. Do it now," Michael urged. "If he's spending like this, he's not planning to stop." I called the bank, my voice slipping into the authoritative tone I'd used to grill CEOs in boardrooms. The representative, a woman named Lisa, was efficient. Within minutes, she confirmed the accounts were frozen: credit cards, checking, savings, all of it. Derek's access was cut off. "His cards will be declined on the next attempt," Lisa assured me. I flagged the account for fraud. "Monitoring anything else you need. Keep me updated," I said. "If he tries to use those cards, I want to know when and where." As I hung up, a small, grim satisfaction settled over me. Derek thought he could run, thought he could hide behind his charm and Lila's money. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. Not yet. I turned back to Lila, her face still swollen, her breathing tied to the rhythm of the ventilator. "Starting to see him, sweetheart," I whispered. "Not getting away with this." My phone buzzed with a notification. Another Instagram post tagged with Derek's name. This time it was a video from Ethan Carter showing Derek laughing in a crowded club, clinking glasses with a group of strangers. The caption read, "Big moves in LA, Derek's killing it." The timestamp was an hour ago. I saved the video, my journalist's mind cataloging it as evidence. Then I sent it to Michael along with a note. "He's still in Los Angeles. Check the rooftop bars on Sunset Boulevard. The hospital room felt smaller now, the walls closing in as the truth began to take shape. Derek wasn't just running from the accident. He was living a double life, spending Leela's money, partying while she fought for every breath. But why? What was he after? The $5,000 transferred to DS Consulting gnawed at me. Was it a business? Deal gone wrong? A cover for something else? I leaned closer to Lila, my voice soft but fierce. I'm following the trail, sweetheart. Wherever it leads, I'll find him. And I'll make sure he answers for what he's done. The ventilator whooshed, steady and relentless, as I opened my laptop again. My fingers flew across the keys, pulling up every social media account connected to Derek. Every digital footprint he'd left. He'd made a mistake thinking he could disappear while I was watching. I'd spent my career exposing men like him and who thought they were untouchable. Derek Sullivan is about to learn that no one betrays my daughter and gets away with it. The hospital room was a strange kind of quiet, the kind that presses against your chest. Heavy with the weight of machines keeping my daughter alive. Lila lay still, her face bruised and swollen. The ventilator's steady whoosh, the only reminder that she was still fighting. But I was fighting too, now. The bank accounts were frozen. Derek's carefree spending spree in Los Angeles' rooftop bars his $800 dinners was over. I'd pulled the plug on his access to Leela's money. And I knew it wouldn't take long for him to notice. I sat by Leela's bed, my laptop open, the glow of the screen casting shadows across her pale hand. In mine, the Instagram video from Ethan Carter played on a loop in my mind, Derek laughing. Clinking champagne glasses, his arm around a woman who wasn't my daughter. The betrayal was raw, a wound that deepened with every new detail I uncovered. $5,000 transferred to DS Consulting gnawed at me. It wasn't just money. It was a clue, a thread I'd pull until Derek's lies unraveled. My phone buzzed, shattering the silence. Derek's name flashed on the screen, and for a moment my heart stopped. I let it ring twice, steadying myself, slipping into the calm, measured tone I'd used in interviews with politicians and CEOs who thought they could outsmart me. This wasn't just a call. It was a confrontation, and I was ready. Patricia Newman, I answered, my voice cool, professional, like I was. Taking a business call, not speaking to the man who'd left my daughter to die. Patricia, what the hell is going on? Derek's voice was sharp, slurred slightly with a faint thump of music in the background. He sounded like he was still in a club, still riding the high of Lila's money. My cards are being declined. All of them. Did you do this? I leaned back in the chair, my eyes on Lila's face, the bruises a stark reminder of what he'd done. Are they? I said, my tone mild, almost curious. That must be inconvenient for you, Derek, especially in Los Angeles with those fancy rooftop bars. There was a pause, a sharp intake of breath. I could almost hear him recalculating, trying to regain control. Look, I don't know what you think is happening, but this is a misunderstanding. I'm dealing with a lot right now. The accident was traumatic for me too, you know? Traumatic. I repeated, my voice still calm, but edged with something cold and sharp. I'm sitting beside Leela's hospital bed, Derek. She's on a ventilator. A machine is breathing for her because she can't. Do you know what that's like? See? Your daughter like this, knowing you weren't there when it happened? Silence. The music in the background faded, like he'd stepped into a quieter corner. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, softer, that charming tone he'd always used to win Lila over. Patricia, I can explain. I needed to get away, clear my head after the crash. It was overwhelming. But I'm coming back, I swear. It's clear. Your head, I cut in, my composure cracking just enough for him to hear the rage beneath. You cleared your head with $12,000 of Leela's money. Hotels on Sunset Boulevard, cash advances. A $5,000 transfer to something called DS Consulting. I've seen the Instagram posts. Derek, you're not grieving, you're partying. His breath hitched, a telltale sign he hadn't expected me to know so much. You've been monitoring my accounts? He said, his voice hardening. That's an invasion of privacy, Patricia. You can't just privacy. I laughed, a short, bitter sound that echoed in the quiet room. You're spending my daughter's money while she's fighting for her life. The daughter you nearly killed with your drunk driving. It's 80 miles an hour, Derek. Blood alcohol level 0.09. Texting at the wheel. Did you even check if she was wearing a seatbelt before you decided to play race car driver on the I-5? He went quiet again, but this time it wasn't shock. It was calculation. When he spoke, his tone was different, smoother, almost reasonable. The kind of voice that could sell you a bad deal and make you thank him for it. Patricia, we're family. I know you're upset, and you have every right to be. But freezing the accounts? That's not the answer. I'm trying to sort things out here. I'll be back tomorrow, and we can talk this through like adults. Like adults, I repeated, letting the words hang between us. Is that what you call spending Leela's money on champagne and women in LA? Or maybe you'd like to explain DS Consulting. What is it, Derek? A business venture? A side hustle? Or something else entirely? The line went silent for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then his voice came back, low and defensive. It's a client account. For work, I had to move some funds to cover expenses after the accident. Medical bills are going to be high, Patricia. I was thinking of Lila. I closed my eyes, the lie so blatant it almost hurt. You're not thinking of Lila? I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, each word precise as a blade. You're thinking of yourself. But here's the thing, Derek. You made a mistake. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought you could run. Patricia, you're blowing this out of proportion, he said, his tone shifting to something harder. An edge I'd never heard before. Unfreeze the accounts. Now I have expenses to cover, and I'm not playing games. Expenses. I said, my voice steady despite the fury burning through me, like the $2,000 cash advance. Or the $800 dinner at the Ivy. Maybe the woman on your arm in Ethan Carter's Instagram post. Seen it all, Derek, and so will the police. He sucked in a breath, and for the first time I heard panic. Real panic. You don't know what you're talking about, he snapped. You're making a big mistake, Patricia. You have no idea what you're messing with. Oh, I think I do, I said, my voice calm, final, and I'm just getting started. I hung up before he could respond, silencing my phone as it immediately buzzed again with his number. I turned back to Leela, her face still and bruised under the harsh hospital lights. Your husband's not as smart as he thinks, I whispered, gently smoothing her hair away from the surgical bandage. He's starting to slip, sweetheart, and I'm going to catch him. Karen, the nurse, slipped into the room to check Leela's vitals, her movements quiet and efficient. Everything's stable, she said, offering a small, reassuring smile. Dr. Nugent's latest scans showed the swelling in her brain is decreasing. It's a good sign. Thank you, I said, my voice softer now, gratitude cutting through. The anger. Karen, if Derek Sullivan tries to call or visit, alert security. He's not to come near her. Karen nodded, her expression professional but understanding. I'll make a note in her file. Family-only visitation, restricted access. As she left, I opened my laptop again, pulling up the banking portal. A new email from Lisa at the bank confirmed the accounts were locked tight. But something else caught my eye: transaction history Lisa had included. Showing the DS Consulting transfer wasn't a one-time thing. There were others, smaller amounts, going back months, all funneled to the same account. My journalist's instincts kicked into overdrive. This wasn't just a side hustle. I texted Michael Torres, my detective friend. With the new details, multiple transfers to DS Consulting starting 3 months after their wedding. Can you trace it? Something's not right. Then, the twist hit me like a punch. A notification from Lisa popped up. Derek had just tried to access the account again, a $3,000 withdrawal attempt from an ATM in Los Angeles. Declined, but the transaction history showed something chilling. Derek had been moving money from Leela's account to cover shortages in his clients' investment funds. He wasn't just spending her money. He was stealing from his clients, using Leela's account to hide it. My hands shook as I forwarded the evidence to Michael. Derek wasn't just a neglectful husband. He was a thief. And Leela's accident, her near death, was starting to look like more than a reckless mistake. Lila, I whispered, squeezing her hand gently. I'm getting closer. He's not going to get away with this. The ventilator whooshed on, steady and relentless, as my resolve hardened. Derek Sullivan thought he could outrun the truth. But he'd underestimated the wrong mother. The ICU was a world of waiting. Each beep of Lila's heart monitor a fragile promise that she was still here, still fighting. I'd been by her side for days now, my world shrinking to this sterile room, the hum of machines and the faint hope that my daughter would open her eyes. Derek's betrayal burned in my chest, his lies, his theft. The way he'd used Leela's money to hide his crimes, but I pushed it aside, focusing on her. Lila was the priority. Always. It was late afternoon, the Portland sky outside the hospital. Window heavy with gray clouds, when I noticed a change. Leela's fingers twitched in mine, a small, fleeting movement, but it sent my heart racing. I leaned closer, my voice soft, urgent. Leela, sweetheart, can you hear me? Our eyelids fluttered, just a fraction, then stilled. I held my breath, watching, waiting. Karen, the head nurse, had told me to look for Sin's small movements, responses to my voice. Talk to her, she'd said. She might hear you, even if she can't show it. So I'd talked hour after hour about everything: her childhood, her photography, the vintage camera I'd brought back from Morocco. But this twitch, this tiny spark, was new. Leela, I whispered, squeezing her hand gently. It's Mom. I'm right here. You're strong, sweetheart. You've always been so strong. Another twitch, stronger this time, her fingers curling slightly against mine. I pressed the call button, my pulse pounding. Karen rushed in, her eyes scanning the monitors before landing on Lila. She moved her hand. I said, my voice trembling with hope, twice. Is she waking up? Karen checked Leela's vitals, her movements calm but quick. It's a good sign, she said, her voice steady but warm. The swelling in her brain has been decreasing, and these movements could mean she's starting to come back to us. I'll page Dr. Nguyen. The next hour was a blur of doctors and tests, scans and hushed conversations. Dr. Nguyen, a quiet man with kind eyes, confirmed what Karen suspected. Lila was showing signs of emerging from the coma. It's not a guarantee, he cautioned. But spontaneous movements like this are promising. Keep talking to her, Mrs. Newman. It helps. I settled back beside her, my heart lighter but still heavy with the weight of what I'd uncovered about Derek. The bank transactions, the Instagram posts, the chilling truth that he'd been stealing from his clients, using Lila's account. To cover it up? I hadn't told her yet. She was too fragile, too far from herself. But if she was waking up, I'd have to face that moment soon. How do you tell your daughter her husband betrayed her in every way possible? The next morning, Lila's eyes opened. Just for a moment, unfocused, her hazel gaze drifting before closing again. But it was enough to make me sob, my hand pressed to my mouth to stifle the sound. Lila, I whispered, leaning close. You're doing it, sweetheart. Coming back over the next 2 days, she grew stronger. Her movements became more deliberate, a squeeze of my hand, a slight turn of her head. By the 3rd day, she spoke, her voice raspy, barely audible through the ventilator tube. Mom, I nearly broke, tears streaming down my face as I gripped her hand. I'm here, Lila, right here. She was still weak, her words slow and halting, but her mind was sharp, piecing things together. The accident, she whispered, her brow furrowing. Derek, he was driving. We were fighting. My heart sank. Fighting. I asked gently, not wanting to push her too far. She nodded, a small, painful movement. He wanted me to sign something, papers for money. I said no. He got so angry, Mom. He was yelling, speeding. Her voice trailed off, her eyes distant like she was reliving it. I swallowed hard, my journalist's instinct screaming to dig deeper, but my mother's heart wanting to protect her. It's okay, sweetheart, I said, stroking her hand. You don't have to talk about it now. It's just rest. But Lila was my daughter, stubborn, fierce, like me. No, she said, her voice stronger now. I need to know. Where's Derek? Why isn't he here? The question hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Lila, Derek hasn't been here since the night of the accident. He signed the admission papers and left. I found some things. He's in Los Angeles, spending money from your joint account. It's a lot of money. Hotels, restaurants, transfers to some account called DS Consulting. Her eyes widened, pain and confusion flickering across her face. Los Angeles, she whispered. But why? There's more, I said, my voice soft but steady. He's been moving money from your account to cover shortages in his clients' investment funds. He's been stealing, Lila, hiding it through you. She closed her eyes, a single tear slipping down her cheek. I trusted him, she said, her voice breaking. I thought, he loved me. He betrayed you, I said, my own voice trembling with anger and grief. But you're not alone, sweetheart. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Lila was quiet for a long moment, her breathing uneven but steady. Then her eyes opened, a spark of the old fire returning. I want to see him, she said, her voice firm despite its weakness. I want to know why. I hesitated. She was still so fragile, her body barely holding together. But I saw the determination in her eyes, the same stubborn strength that had driven her to chase the perfect photograph through rain and wind. I'll arrange it, I said finally, but it'll be on our terms. I called Michael Torres, my detective friend, and explained Lila's request. He agreed to set up a supervised meeting at the hospital with security present. We're closing in on him, Patricia, Michael said. That DS Consulting account, it's a shell. We're tracing it to a network of offshore accounts. Derek's, in deeper than you think. The meeting was set for the next day. When Derek walked into the ICU, flanked by a security guard, I barely recognized him. The polished charm was gone, replaced by a haggard man with dark circles under his eyes. His suit wrinkled, his bandage peeling. He looked at Lila, and for a moment I saw a flicker of guilt, or maybe it was just fear. Lila, he said, his voice soft, practiced. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. She stared at him, her eyes sharp despite the pain. You left me, she said, her voice low but steady. You took my money. You lied. Why, Derek? What? Were you hiding? He shifted, glancing at the guard, then back at her. It's not what you think, he said, slipping into that smooth tone I'd heard on the phone. I was trying to protect us. The investments went bad, and I needed to cover the losses. I was going to tell you, I swear. Protect us. Lila's voice rose, a spark of her old fire breaking through. You were in LA, partying while I was here, dying. You used my money to hide your theft. You're a liar, Derek. His face hardened, the mask slipping. You don't understand the pressure I was under, he snapped. You think you can judge me? You have no idea what I was dealing with. I know enough, Lila said, her voice cutting through his excuses. I know I trusted you, and you betrayed me. I'm done, Derek. You don't get to hurt me anymore. The room was silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy. Derek opened his mouth, then closed it, his eyes darting to me, to the guard, back to Lila. For the first time, he looked small, cornered. Get out, Lila said, her voice quiet but unyielding. I don't ever want to see you again. The guard escorted him out, his shoulders slumped, his charm shattered. I looked at Lila, pride swelling in my chest despite the pain of the moment. She was broken, but she was fighting not just for her life, but for herself. "You did it, sweetheart," I whispered, squeezing her hand. "You faced him." She nodded, tears in her eyes but a faint smile on her lips. "I'm not done fighting, Mom." And I knew in that moment that my daughter was coming back, not just from the accident, but from the betrayal that had nearly destroyed her. The hospital room felt different now. Lighter somehow, as if Lila's strength was pushing back the sterile weight of the ICU. My daughter was fighting her way back, her eyes brighter each day, her voice stronger, her grip on my hand a quiet promise that she wasn't giving up. But even as hope bloomed, the shadow of Derek's betrayal loomed large. His lies, his theft, the way he'd left her to die while he partied in Los Angeles, it wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was something darker, and I was determined to uncover every piece of it. Michael Torres, my old detective friend, had been working tirelessly since our last call. His updates were short, precise, the kind of clipped reports I remembered from our days chasing leads together. "Patricia," he'd said that morning, his voice low over the phone, "we're close to nailing him. That DS Consulting account? It's a front. We're digging deeper, but it's messy." Messy didn't scare me. I'd spent my career untangling messes, corrupt officials, shady corporations, lies hidden in fine print. But this was personal. This was Lila. And every time I looked at her, still tethered to machines, her face bruised but her spirit unbroken, I felt a fire I hadn't known in years. Derek Sullivan was going down. Lila's recovery was slow but steady. She was off the ventilator now, breathing on her own. Though her voice was still weak, her body still fragile. She'd started asking more questions about Derek, about what I'd found. I told her everything, that $12,000 in charges, the transfers to DS Consulting, the Instagram posts of him living it up while she fought for her life. Her eyes had hardened with each detail, not with pain anymore, but with resolve. "He's not getting away with this, Mom," she'd said, her voice quiet but fierce. "I want him to face what he did." I nodded, squeezing her hand. "Will, sweetheart, I promise." That promise came closer to reality when Michael called me late one evening, his voice urgent. "Patricia, we got him. Derek was picked up in Los Angeles last night, trying to board a flight to Mexico. He's in custody now, and you're not going to believe what we found." I stepped into the hospital corridor, my heart pounding. "Tell me." Michael's voice dropped, like he was bracing me for impact. "DS Consulting isn't just a shell company. It's a front for a money laundering operation. It's tied to a syndicate in LA. Derek wasn't just skimming from his client's investment. Funzi was funneling their money through Leela's account to hide the shortages. Over $200,000 in the last 6 months. But here's the kicker." He paused, and I gripped the phone tighter. "The accident. It wasn't just reckless driving. We found evidence suggesting Derek may have planned it. Text messages from his phone sent hours before the crash to an associate in the syndicate. He was panicking about Lila, asking questions about the account. He needed her out of the way." The world tilted. I leaned against the hospital wall, my breath shallow, out of the way. I whispered, "You're saying he tried to kill her?" "Not directly," Michael said, his tone grim. "But the texts show he was desperate. He wrote, 'She's getting suspicious. I need to handle this tonight.' Then he got behind the wheel, drunk, speeding, knowing she wasn't buckled in." The crash was convenient, Patricia. Too convenient. I closed my eyes, the weight of it crashing over me. Derek hadn't just betrayed Lila with his lies and theft. He'd endangered her life deliberately, using her as a shield to protect his crimes. My daughter, my beautiful, vibrant Lila, had been a pawn in his game. The rage I felt wasn't hot. Anymore, it was cold, sharp, a blade honed by years of chasing truth. "Bring him here," said my voice steady, despite the storm inside. Lila deserves to know. And I want him to look her in the eye when he hears the charges. Michael arranged for Derek to be transported to Portland for questioning, but the real battle came months later. In a courtroom that felt both too big and too small for the weight of what had happened. Lila was stronger by then, out of the ICU. Her shoulders still in a brace, but her spirit unbroken. She insisted on testifying. Her voice clear and unwavering as she faced Derek across the courtroom. I sat in the gallery, my heart swelling with pride and pain as Lila spoke. I trusted you, she said, her eyes locked on Derek's. I loved you, and you used me. You took my money, my trust, my life, and you threw it away. You thought I wouldn't survive to tell the truth, but I'm here. Derek wouldn't. Meet her gaze, his head bowed, his once polished suit now wrinkled, his charm reduced to ash. The evidence was overwhelming: bank records, text messages, witness statements from his LA associates. The prosecutor laid it out methodically. Derek Sullivan was charged with embezzlement, fraud, money laundering, and reckless endangerment, with intent to cause serious injury. The courtroom was silent as the judge delivered the verdict: 20 years in prison, no parole for at least 15. When the gavel fell, I reached for Lila's hand, her fingers trembling but strong. It's over, I whispered, though I knew it wasn't. Not really. Justice was a step, but healing was a journey. After the trial, we faced a swarm of reporters outside the courthouse. My old journalist instincts kicked in, but this time, I wasn't the one asking questions. Lila took the lead, her voice steady, despite the cameras. I'm not a victim, she said, her chin lifted. I'm a survivor. And I'm here to tell anyone listening, trust your instincts. Something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone take your voice. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others scribbling notes. I stood beside her, my heart full, watching my daughter reclaim her power in front of the world. Later that night, back at the hospital where Lila was still recovering, I sat by her bed, the city lights of Portland glowing softly through the window. You were incredible today, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you. She smiled, a small, tired smile, but one that carried the spark I'd always loved. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. You fought for me when I couldn't. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. You fought for yourself, Lila. You always have. As she drifted to sleep, I thought about the twist Michael had uncovered: Derek's plan to silence Lila, to use her as a shield for his crimes. It was a truth that could have broken us, but instead, it forged us stronger. Derek was gone, locked away, his lies exposed. But Lila and I, we were just beginning. The hospital room was quiet, the monitor softer now, a gentle rhythm of life. Moving forward. I leaned back in my chair, my hand still holding Lila's, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace. The truth was out. Justice was served. And my daughter was coming back to me, one brave step at a time. The hospital room, once a prison of fear and uncertainty, had become a place of quiet hope. Lila was no longer tethered to the ventilator, her breathing steady now, her hazel eyes catching the soft Portland sunlight filtering through the window. She was still fragile, her shoulder brace a reminder of the accident. Her voice still soft from weeks of disuse, but she was here, alive and growing stronger every day. Watching her, I felt a warmth I hadn't known since before that terrible letter changed everything. My daughter was coming back to me, and together we were rebuilding something unbreakable. The trial was behind us. Derek Sullivan was locked away, his 20-year sentence a testament to the truth we'd fought for. His betrayal, his theft, his lies. The chilling reality that he'd orchestrated the accident to silence Lila still lingered like a bruise. But it no longer defined us. Lila was done being his victim. She was ready to reclaim her life, and I was ready to stand beside her, not as a protector now, but as a partner in her healing. Lila left the hospital 2 months after waking from her Colma, her steps slow but determined. She refused to return to the apartment she'd shared with Derek, the place where his lies had taken root. Instead, she moved into my house in Portland's West Hills. A cozy place filled with memories of her childhood, her first camera, her high school art projects, the laughter we'd shared over late-night talks. We turned my guest room into her studio, shelves lined with her lenses and prints. It's a space where she could create again. She threw herself into her photography with a fire I hadn't seen in years. Her latest project, a series called Shades of Resilience, was born from the pain of the last months. The photos were raw, haunting fractured images of broken glass and shadowed faces giving way to vibrant shots of dawn breaking over the Columbia River Gorge, lights spilling across healed scars. "It's me," she told me one evening, pinning a print to her board. "The dark parts, the broken parts, and the light that comes after." I watched her work, my heart swelling with pride. "You're turning pain into beauty, Leela," I said, my voice thick. "That's what survivors do." She smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. "I learned from the best, Mom." That spring, Lila organized an exhibition for Shades of Resilience at a gallery in downtown Portland. The turnout was overwhelming. Friends, artists, even strangers who'd heard her story through news coverage of the trial. She stood at the front of the room, her shoulder brace gone now, her voice steady as she spoke to the crowd. "These photos aren't just mine," she said, her eyes scanning the faces before her. "They're for anyone who's ever been broken and found a way to rise. I'm donating all proceeds to a local shelter for survivors of financial abuse and domestic violence, because no one should have to fight alone." The applause was thunderous, but I barely heard it. I was watching my daughter, her strength a beacon in the room, her pain transformed into purpose. I clapped until my hands ached, tears streaming down my face, not from sorrow, but from awe. Leela and I started speaking at conferences and shelters, sharing our story with women who'd faced their own betrayals. We stood side by side, mother and daughter, telling audiences across the country that healing isn't linear, that strength comes from the choice to keep going. "Trust your instincts," Lila would say, her voice clear and unwavering. "Something feels wrong. Listen to that voice. It's there to protect you." I'd add my own piece, the journalist in me unable to resist a call to action. "You're never alone," I'd tell them. "There's always someone waiting to help. You stand again. Find them, fight for them. Fight for yourself." A year after the accident, Lila and I took a trip to Morocco, retracing the steps of my interrupted vacation. We wandered the souk of Marrakesh, the air thick with the scent of spices and leather, the colors as vibrant as Lila's photographs. She carried the vintage camera I'd bought her, snapping shots of tiled courtyards and desert sunsets, her laughter brighter than the sun. One evening, as we sat on a rooftop overlooking the Atlas Mountains, she handed me a small notebook. "Write something," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Something you want to carry forward." I took the pen, my hand steady as I wrote, "From the ashes we rise stronger, together." Lila read it and smiled, then added her own words, "The light always finds a way." That night, Lila dedicated a new photo series to a shelter in Portland, a collection of images capturing the beauty of second chances. "For the women who helped me heal," she wrote in the dedication. "And for my mom, who never stopped fighting." As we stood there, the Moroccan stars glittering above us, I realized something profound. Derek had tried to break us, to shatter Leela's life and bury his secrets, but he'd failed. Leela was more than a survivor. She was a creator, a light in the darkness. And I was more than a mother. I was her partner, her ally, her witness, to a strength that no betrayal could dim. Life doesn't promise fairness. It doesn't shield you from betrayal or pain, but it gives you something more powerful, the chance to rebuild. When someone tries to take your voice, your trust, your light, you have a choice. You can let the darkness define you, or you can choose to rise, to turn your pain into purpose, your scars into stories. Lila taught me that healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about building something stronger from it. And the greatest strength comes from those who stand beside you, who remind you that you're never alone. Trust your instincts, find your people, and never stop fighting for the life you deserve.